Hi, this is Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in a game called Treasure Mountain. This is a game that a friend got from Kickstarter recently, and I got to play it. It's a worker placement game, and kind of a dwarf miner game where you're mining down, or you're participating in this big under-mountain treasure hunt, kind of, and you're compiling ore, you're digging your own tunnels. There's a little bit of tile laying, mainly a worker placement game. And it does a few really neat things with worker placement that I appreciated. The main thing being that a number of these action spots on the board, when you place your worker there, all players get to participate in the action. And so I like this for a couple different reasons, and I like a couple different things that they did with this. But the number one thing that I really liked about this is the positive player interaction it creates. I talk a lot about positive player interaction on this channel. I much prefer it to negative player interaction. And I like positive player interaction where timing matters and where it gets you to pay attention to the other players at the table. And that's what Treasure Mountain does really well. Because often, when you are deciding whether or not to take one of these shared actions, part of the decision-making process that you're going through in Treasure Mountain is, how can I choose the best time to do this so it helps me the most and helps everyone else the least? So even though it's positive player interaction, you're still engaging the other players. You're still not necessarily trying to help them. You're trying to choose the right timing so that they can't optimize that action in the same level, in the same way that you can. And a great example of this are these cards over here. So these are cards that say, like, if you have 5 blue gems, you get 3 points. I think that's all you get. Yeah, you get 3 points from it. And you pick up that card. You take that card away. You don't have to discard the gems. You just have to actually have them at the time that you take this action. And so this is a great way that during the game to get points. And when you do so, you're looking around the table to see, okay, so I'm going to do that one, but I want to choose the time that no one else has 3 coins, or that no one else has 9 of any gem, or that no one else has 5 red gems, if you can kind of barely see that off photo there. So you're actively looking around and seeing the current status of the other players so that you get the best thing out of this action and they get the worst thing. But it's still positive player interaction, which I think is great. So I love that aspect of the kind of the shared worker placement that happens with these actions. I like that you get to pick first, so that's important. That's an incentive for you to choose the action, so that you get to pick the first card here, or you get to pick the first area of the mine there. There's a few other ones that are more difficult to explain, but there you get to be the first one to pick. Also, with all these shared actions, if you are the player choosing the action, and this is almost overkill, but it still felt good. It still was maybe a little extra added incentive to choose a shared action instead of a private action. If you are the player to put a worker there, oftentimes you get another little bonus. You can't really see it printed here, but on a few of them, it's like, okay, if you're the worker to place here, you get a gold and then take the action, something like that. So I like that there's a little added bonus for you to be the first player to place a worker there, or the only player to place a worker there. All of those factors come together to create a really, really nice feel of worker placement. The one thing I would say is that it does, it interrupts the flow of the game a little bit, because it's rather difficult to kind of plan ahead for your turn. You can see some actions that you want to take, but because your other players are in control of when you take actions instead of you being fully in control of when you take actions, it convolutes the flow of the game just a little bit. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying that because if you're thinking about designing something like this in a game, a shared worker placement action system, just be aware of the playtester's responses to the impact of the flow of the game, and remembering whose turn it is and what turn it is. Is it the turn where you place the worker, or is it the next player's turn? Are you in the middle of this turn? That type of thing. I think it's worth paying attention to. But overall, I really, really like the positive player interactions and how these actions give you a reason to pay attention to the other players at the table in Treasure Mountain. If you have a different favorite mechanism in Treasure Mountain, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Or if this reminds you of another worker placement game that has that gives you reasons to pay attention to other players as you take your actions, which is kind of a thing about worker placement anyway. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks.